Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. What goes through your mind when you see somebody who's homeless? Thank you for joining us today. We're back to normal shows because we've had that great 6-week series of The Man of Galilee. I hope you enjoyed it. We filmed that series in the Holy Land, looking at the impact and life of the ministry of Jesus Christ and asking questions which I hope you found meaningful and relevant to your own life today. Why has Jesus not been ignored like so many over time? Why are his words still talked about so many years since it all began? And if Christianity is merely a set of doctrines or rules to follow, why are lives still being transformed through a personal encounter with God? These are some of the questions that we look at, as well as visiting the places that Jesus called home. We'll repeat the films a little later in the year. If you'd like to watch the series between now and then, go to our Wesley Mission website, where you can buy a copy of the entire series and download a study and discussion group for a church or small group. The website's on the screen now. As always, I welcome back your feedback, and please write to me with questions you might have. The Man of Galilee series, the Christian faith, and anything you hear here on Wesley Impact, and I'll be in touch with you. Now, I asked a question about how you might react when someone is there homeless before you see them for the first time. Since I became superintendent at Wesley Mission, homelessness has been a recurring theme. Wesley Mission has a long history working with people who are homeless. We understand that we need to address the whole person, not just the symptoms or the immediate presenting need for shelter and food. Through our social media, we're leading a discussion around the issue of homelessness and asking a number of people about their perceptions on homelessness and the causes and what we can do. Let's take a look at this short video clip a little later in the show, and you'll see those different views. I've also got with me Rob Seaton for Wesley Mission Homelessness Services. He's addressing some of the perceptions and looking at the work that we do here at Wesley Mission. We're going to be joined by Craig Gower and the Wesley Impact Band, singing the Stuart Townend song, How Deep the Father's Love. And I'll be looking at the 3rd chapter of Mark, and we'll see the busy life of Jesus and the disciples and how groups of people wanted to restrict Jesus Christ and his ministry. The issue of homelessness is one that's prevalent in every city around the world and all around Australia, and increasingly through our suburbs and in regional areas. Starting today and over the next 3 weeks, I'd like to focus on the issue, looking at 4 areas of our work. Today, we get a bird's eye view of the work of the homeless. Next week, we'll look at some of the ways in which we're preventing homelessness through issues in people's lives. We look at work with young people, and then also with families in the weeks to come. Let's now take a look at that video clip that I referred to earlier. What do Australians think about homelessness?
I have seen a lot of homelessness in Australia.
To me, homelessness is not acceptable in Australia. With Australia, we have such a good, pension system.
Sad, isn't it, really? Rich country like Australia with all these homeless people. It's very sad.
Homelessness can depend on a lot of things. Relationship turned sour and gone bad, and then financial difficulties.
Or they got fired from a job and couldn't find any work.
I don't think homelessness is a choice. I think people find themselves, nobody chooses to sleep outside.
Homelessness can happen to anybody, and we can have everything today and lose it all tomorrow.
People just fall into homelessness. It's not a choice, it's just you make up the person and experiences they go through.
I cannot even imagine being on the streets for one night, even an hour, without knowing that I have a family and support behind me. It's awful for them, awful.
I can't imagine being a child and feeling unsafe. So for children to be homeless is just, it's unimaginable to me.
I always think of the loneliness that they experience. So very isolated in their just day to day, even if they're surrounded by people, but they're very isolated.
They have no ability and opportunity to start their life inside society.
We have to just listen to them and try and help them. It's a very, very tricky situation. I think there's many people who want to help people.
It's a big problem because it's not really been addressed, I think. Yeah, I think it's a big problem. it's growing, and nobody's really want to do that much about it.
People are finding it harder and harder to make ends meet, and they're finding themselves in circumstances that they would never think they were in.
I think the solution to the question of homelessness is a raising of public awareness, which you're doing, and thank you for that.
Government policies towards debt, for example, financial debt and things like that, that will contribute towards homelessness also.
I still think the government should encourage especially young people to actively look for a job.
The solution to homelessness is that we all come together because we are a global community. It's just giving them a house and making them clean them up. So give them a haircut, give them something to eat, shower.
I think as long as there is one person that's homeless, it's a big problem wherever it is in the world. You know, people really deserve to have certain basic fundamental things provided for them if they cannot provide it for themselves.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
Sweetheart, we can only pick one. Pick your favourite. Look. Come on. Mummy, where are we going? I don't know. Anywhere but here.
For some, homelessness is safer than home. 17% of Australia's homeless are aged under 12. Donate today.
So please don't hesitate to be in touch if you'd like to find out more about our work here at Wesley Mission, or if there's some way in which we can offer help to you. Our email address and website are on the screen now, wesleymission.org.au. That video clip asked some open-ended questions, and the responses were very varied, though I have to say more positive than you might expect from people in the general public. One thing we can take home from watching a compilation of responses like that is that there are a wide range of popular, and sometimes if we got the right people there, and it were difficult to find unpopular views, because I'm sure they exist from things that we say in relation to the issue of homelessness. The causes and solutions are complex. We talk more about this and address some of the stereotypes surrounding the important issue with the manager of our Wesley Homeless Services, Rob Seaton. Rob, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, it's nice to be here.
Look, what's your response to some of the questions that we might have asked those people about their perception of homelessness? Do you think those perceptions are good, or is there more that we should be saying?
Oh, I think those perceptions, to my surprise, have nailed it pretty much. It's not acceptable that anyone should be homeless in a society like ours. It's a basic human right, and I think that anyone need be homeless in our community suggests a failure of the community to contain, you know, the person's vulnerability and needs. I also think that homelessness is never a choice. It's at its heart an absence of choice.
I've never found anybody who says, I want to be homeless, you know. And you do get that feeling sometimes, I have to say it, from politicians and leaders, that they actually have this in their mind. Not really. You know, and sleep outs and all the rest of it don't do it. What in the end people have got to do and understand, these people are not doing this for any show. It's a reality in their life, and usually there's a lot of other things that lie behind it. How significant is the problem in Australia, to give us a perception?
Oh, I think it's a big problem. Easily over 100,000 people we're willing to say are homeless on any given night.
And that means more than just they're sleeping in the park, doesn't it?
Yeah. There are the rough sleepers. There's the
sleeping in cars, the couch surf. It's a lot, isn't it, of options? Yeah, and people sleep in the most unusual places: garages, parks, sports stadiums. All those are options that people have chosen to be their place of homelessness, and it really is a difficult place. How has the face of homelessness changed? Would you say that it's like it was 10 years ago, or has it subtly changed? The kind of people, the places that they might, the reasons why they might get there?
Look, quite a number of years ago we began talking about how homelessness had become younger and the problems experienced by people who are homeless were becoming much more complex. Now we're starting to talk about an increase in the number of families becoming homeless, an increase in the number of older people becoming homeless.
Because that's a new thing, isn't it? You know, that perhaps superannuation funds are just not there for people, so they don't have enough to live on. Women who are another issue, aren't they?
Yeah, older women have been recognised as a particularly vulnerable group and are receiving a lot of attention in the sector as an emerging need and quite a problematic need.
So how did you get to be interested and involved in this?
I'd been working in youth ministry. I had also been working in drug and alcohol rehabilitation. After 3 or 4 years in that role, was in a residential setting where I would live there for 11 days and have 3 days off. And so I needed a breath after about 4 years of that. And I was never quite too sure whether to go further into welfare or further into ministry.
And do you feel that you made the right decision? You feel a sense of satisfaction?
I think so. I tackled both, and the two sat side by side nicely for a very long time. I'm not actually sure that the decision of one or the other was necessarily ever that clear.
And because we're a Christian organisation and faith does matter to us, there's a sense in which you can, in your own personal perception, can combine those two senses, can't you? And they feel that this is a calling as much as any other.
Oh, I think so, very much, very much.
What does faith mean to you?
Well, faith means to me that on one level I have a dependence on God and a reliance upon His resources, which is humbling and liberating. It also helps me, I think, to be willing to hold hope on behalf of someone else.
Let me just ask you this question, snapshot, one sentence answer. What should we do when we meet somebody who's homeless?
Respect them, acknowledge them. I think anything beyond that is up to the person.
So a person still has control of their own life. You don't take them over because they've got needs.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Rob. I'm looking forward to seeing you when at the end of this series, we looked at some of those issues to reflect a bit further on that. Let's now welcome Craig Gower and the Wesley Impact Band to sing How Deep the Father's Love.
How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wretch His treasure. How great the pain of searing loss, the Father turns His face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon His shoulders. Ashamed I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held Him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life, and I know that it is finished. His wounds have paid my ransom. His wounds have paid my ransom.
Caring for a child with disability is more than a full-time job. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-stop caring. Sadly, without a break, this constant strain will take its toll. Help us give carers a break before they break down. Donate to Wesley Mission Disability Services before it's too late. Experience the Galilee and the towns and cities where Jesus was raised and called his home. Capernaum, Nazareth, Tabgha, Magdala, Caesarea Philippi, Bethsaida, Tiberias, and of course the Sea of Galilee all feature in this 6-part series as Keith Garner explains the first century context of biblical events.
Jesus was born during a time of change in the political and economic leadership of this region. Fishermen around a lakeside was really one of the big businesses. Why Jesus? Why didn't people ignore him? Why did they take him seriously? And what are the questions we should be asking today if we're going to take Jesus seriously?
The Man of Galilee is available now and comes with a study guide for leaders, small groups and individuals. For more, visit wesleymission.org.au.
So there it is, the Man of Galilee. I hope you find opportunity to be able to not only watch it, perhaps even purchase one to use in a small group work in a church or a fellowship or a discussion group. Now, as we travel through these early chapters of Mark, and they're focused in real ways around the Galilee, the momentum builds as great crowds flock to listen to him. Very early on in Mark's Gospel, the crowds were so great, they were outside the back door, and wherever he went, they seemed to follow him. And in the passage that I'm going to read to you, in that passage we see how great it was, the pressure upon him. So I'm reading from Mark chapter 3, verse 20 through to 35. Then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, but they said, "He's out of his mind." And the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem said, "He is possessed by Beelzebub, by the prince of demons. He's driving out demons." So Jesus called them over to him and began to speak to them in parables. "How can Satan drive out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, the house cannot stand. And if Satan opposes himself and is divided, he cannot stand. His end has come. In fact, no one can enter a strong man's house without first tying him up. Then he came plunder the strong man's house. Truly, I tell you, people can be forgiven all their sins and even slander that they utter, but whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. They're guilty of an eternal sin." He said this because they were saying he has an impure spirit. Then Jesus' mothers and brothers arrived, standing outside. They sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, "Your mother and brothers are outside looking for you." "Who are my mother and brothers?" he asked. Then he looked at those seated in the circle around him and said, "Here are my mother and brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother." Well, it's a great passage, but it's a tough one. It would have been so easy to have passed this over and sort of said, well, I've missed that one out and gone on to the next bit. But the truth is that the pressure upon Jesus was so great that he and the disciples couldn't even eat meals in comfort. Both the family of Jesus and the teachers of the law were concerned, though for very different reasons. The teachers made an accusation that Jesus was casting out demons by the prince of demons. Jesus called the critics over. I love this about Jesus. He was prepared to confront those who had the wrong perspective, those who made accusations against him. And he told a parable of a strong man needing to be tied up. His family wanted him restrained. Not physically. When they say he's out of his mind, they're not trying to say he's mentally ill. But this is a crazy thing to do, to speak in this way. You're going to be in trouble, Jesus. I can't help but think that there's that aspect to it. For his own good, they want to protect him. Relationships are frayed even with his family for this kind of reason. Perhaps they're saying, if they go for Jesus, they'll come for us as well. Perhaps there's a protectionism going on. Well, let's look at some of the verses in this passage and at least make some comments about them that I hope might be helpful. In the very beginning of the passage, in verse 20, we recognise the crowd gathering. They must have been following him. They were listening to what he said. As they saw him heal people, as they saw him teach, as they perceived what he was doing, the crowds built. And because they've been all those maybe 400 years without a prophetic voice, there was something very powerful going on as the crowds were attracted to Jesus. Now, attempts are made to metaphorically tie Jesus up and render him unable to help. You can see how that would have a link to the parable that Jesus told a little later in the story. But then we have this concept, and it's a very real one. A divided house cannot stand. Now, we know that in so many ways in life, that divided families, divided communities, divided people cannot stand by themselves. That truth is there. If a house is divided against itself, the house cannot stand. And then here's the bit that I perhaps wouldn't have wanted to easily move into, but we've got to the unforgivable sin. This almost feels like it's against everything we know about Jesus Christ. It almost feels like so contrary to what we might see. He is the one who forgives sins, who teaches us to forgive other people. But the unforgivable sin is an interesting one. When people have ever come to me when I've been a pastor of a church and said to me, I'm afraid I've committed the unforgivable sin. Well, the first truth, and probably if somebody's bothered about that, they certainly haven't done. The unforgivable sin is about attributing the work of Jesus Christ to evil. That's what the passage is really saying. To say Jesus Christ is doing this out of evil intent. And many people who are not believers, who don't really embrace the Christian faith, would never say that. They say he's a good guy, he does things that's all right. It's saying actually when you contribute and attribute the ministry of Jesus to evil things. Now, I think that really this passage shows us Jesus beginning to address difficult things, beginning to engage with people to such an extent that the pressure's upon him, the crowds are building. This will continue all through Mark's gospel till we get to chapter 8 when the whole mood changes and his direction moves towards the cross. Jesus, somebody who was not afraid to confront what was wrong. Jesus, who had such a popularity that people wanted to be there. And Jesus, who was willing to address the things that other people were too easily ready to pass by.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A 5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send us an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on social media. You can also connect through Keith's blog and stay up to date on all the latest news and information from Wesley Mission, wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you once again for sharing your time with us. We do value that. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Craig Gower and the comments from Rob in the beginning of that series when we're looking at homelessness. So I hope when you see someone who's homeless, you took Rob's word to seriously, giving dignity to the person, treating them with respect and all the things that give a person meaning in their lives. And remember, they're still in control of their own lives. We're not all called to work with people who are homeless, but we can all do something to change the views and the world around us. I hope you'll be here next week when we continue that series. Thank you once again for being part of the program. I look forward to seeing you again next week. This time, same time next week, where we've got music, conversation, and we'll open the Bible once again. Same time next week. God bless you.
Wesley Mission helps people who are experiencing homelessness transition into permanent housing through Wesley Homeless Services. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.